Story 1. Backstory. My mother and father separated when I was 12, and I was actually relieved they split up. They weren't bad people, they just weren't right for each other. My father hasn't remarried, though he is dating someone I don't particularly like her, but it's my father's decision. My mother started dating a year after the divorce. She met my now stepfather, who had a son. I became quite close to him, considering my biological brother went to live with my father while I lived with my mother. So when my mother announced her wedding, we were all excited. Then my stepfather's son officially became my stepbrother. Now, onto the main story. My stepbrother and his girlfriend of 3 years were getting married. My girlfriend happens to be my best friend, so I was extremely excited for them. I was chosen to be the maid of honor, and my biological brother was the best man. We were all that close. My son's best friend, we'll call him Jerk, was one of the groomsmen. I never really liked Jerk because he was a total creep and always tried to flirt with me when my stepbrother wasn't around. My stepbrother is quite protective, so I didn't tell him, or he might have gotten into serious trouble. Also, I can stand up for myself. Anyway, once Jerk finally got a girlfriend, he stopped bothering me. During the wedding planning, nothing crazy happened apart from the normal wedding stress. We invited almost everyone we knew, and it was going to be great, or so we thought. The big day arrived, and everyone was ecstatic. The ceremony was beautiful, and everything went great. Then came the reception. It was going well. The bride and groom, plus the bridesmaids and groomsmen, were all seated at a table at the front of the venue, while the guests were sitting in front of us, facing our table. Everyone was giving speeches and enjoying the food. Then, out of nowhere, Jerk stands up, takes the microphone, and says he has something important to say. We were all confused as he had finished his speech, but we let him talk. I wish we hadn't. He asked his girlfriend to come up to the table, and I already knew where this was going. He starts a speech about how much he loves her and how they were meant for each other. She's smiling, but I think she didn't want this to happen now of all times. He then kneels down, pulls a ring out of his pocket, and asks her to marry him. She said yes. They start running around showing people the ring, all the while my best friend looked like she was going to cry. My stepbrother and biological brother were whispering to each other. I couldn't hear what they were saying. Finally, my mother gets up to remind everyone that this was her son's wedding and that we should stop talking about someone else's engagement. Everyone was quiet. Suddenly, we hear this banshee-like scream. Jerk's girlfriend started screaming and crying, saying my mother had ruined her special day. Then Jerk began yelling at us too, claiming that he did nothing wrong. They got kicked out in the end. My brother lost his best friend that day, but he didn't really care because that inconsiderate person lost all his friends. I'm also going to be a bit petty and say they can't even have a wedding because of the global health crisis, so I hope they're happy. Story 2. 2 things to note at the beginning. I'm Polish, so writing in English is sometimes a bit difficult for me, but I'm doing my best. Second, I'm on mobile. This happened when I was about 15. My cousin was supposed to take me to the anime and manga convention in the bigger town. I was living in the countryside. I was really excited to go since I adored watching anime and reading manga. I was also into cosplaying, so I was hoping to bring one of my costumes to the event. The only issue was money, but it wasn't really a problem. Since it wasn't a super big convention in a major city, it was quite expensive to get the tickets, food, and have some fun there. Fortunately, I had a bunch of school books from the past few years of learning, and I knew just the place where you could sell these during the summer for someone to buy them cheaper than in the shop. I couldn't get the full amount back for selling these, but it was enough for the convention and even more. Books were an expensive deal, after all. I really had a lot of these hiding in my room. I stacked all the books, and when my grandmother asked me what I was doing, she was living right next to me. I explained to her where I was going, what the convention was, and how selling these books would help me gain money for tickets and other things. I was really happy to tell her all about the fun things I would be able to do for 3 days there. Then she told me a little story about herself. When she was 10, she really wanted to have a goat because her friend had a little one, and she thought it was really cute. So, she asked her rich aunt to give her money. The aunt agreed without even asking questions and told her exactly where she could buy a small goat. But when she came home to tell her mother about that idea, Her mother snapped the money from her hand and told her that it wasn't going to happen because they needed to buy food, clothes, etc. Not goats for fun. I thought she was trying to tell me that she was sad that she couldn't have as much fun as a kid. I told her that I felt sorry for her and didn't think much about it later. I had no idea what was coming. The next day, when I was supposed to go sell my books, there were none. Like they all just disappeared. I immediately got scared that now I wouldn't be able to go anywhere, but I decided not to panic and just ask everyone in the house what happened to my things. My father had no idea, neither did my brother. I finally confronted my grandmother and asked what happened to my books. She obviously told me that she had no idea. Someone else had to pick them up and hide them somewhere. I answered that I had asked literally everyone, and no one knew what could have happened. Besides, I could already see on her face that she was just trying to avoid my questions. "Why do you even need these old books?" she asked. "What do you mean? I told you yesterday exactly why I need them." "I have no idea what you're talking about." She was acting like our talk never happened and my books didn't exist either. I told my father about it. He told me to forgive her because she's old and may really not remember, but I know her personality really well. And I knew that she was just lying to me and not to worry because he would give me some money. That cheered me up a bit, but I was still upset that the books I was about to sell just went away. We weren't particularly wealthy, so my father could give me money for tickets and some food. But there was no way of speaking of actually having fun by buying things, using the lottery, etc. I was really hoping for that since I was supposed to use only my own money. After some time, I completely forgot about that incident until I went to my grandmother's backyard while helping with something in spring. I looked at the old doghouse because I spotted something weird inside with the corner of my eye. Yes, all my books were there, all destroyed by the rain, winter, etc. Useless. I love my grandmother, but I still can't forgive her for stealing my stuff. Hoping that I would never go to the dream convention just because she couldn't fulfill her own dream when she was small. I still went there, I still had fun with my cousin, but I was still lied to. Story 3. I am an essential worker. I work in a factory and wear a uniform, but I still dress how I normally dress. I love to wear skirts and decorative tights under my ripped jeans, bodysuits, crop tops, etc. I'm pretty slim and petite. One of my coworkers is the same age as me, 20 years old, female, and she's a bit on the curvier side. She always comes in sweatpants and baggy sweaters. I've seen her outside of work before, and she does put effort into her appearance when she wants to. One day, we were changing back into our normal clothes when I caught her staring at me. I asked her if everything was okay, and she just shrugged and walked out without saying anything. So I ordered this cute yellow plaid skirt, and since the quarantine, I haven't been able to wear it, so I decided to wear it to work. Walking in, I saw my coworker sitting in the break room talking to some other people. I went over to the table where I usually sit and started chatting with some coworkers while I put my stuff in its place. One of the guys is this man in his 40s with a daughter close to my age. He said he liked my skirt and might get one for his kid. This caught her attention, and she asked why he would allow his daughter to dress like that. This made people stop and stare at her. When she realized what she said, she just got up and walked out of the break room into the locker room. Upset, I followed her in and just saw her changing into her uniform. I asked her why she would say something like that, and all she said was, "I have no reason to explain myself to you." I told her, "Considering you were talking about me, I think you do." She huffed and said that I'm obviously trying to get people to look at me and expect that every girl has to dress like this, that I was begging for attention and how I made her self-conscious. First off, I don't dress for other people, I dress for myself. I basically flipped it on her by saying, "Well, I don't like the way you dress because you're making people think that girls shouldn't take pride in the way they look." She says, "I don't give a darn what people think about me." To which I reply, "Then why do you care so much about how I dress?" Her response is, "Because no normal person dresses like that. You look stupid, and people think you're a freak." She leaves the locker room all smug as if she just won this fight. But because of her little outburst in the break room, people started giving her the side eye. She noticed this and now blames me for making people think she's a bad person. Story 4. I work in information technology at a small nonprofit. We have a kitchen staff room and supply free coffee, tea, milk, sugar, etc. During the pandemic, all staff were working from home, but for the past few weeks, some staff have been coming back gradually, most for just 1-2 days a week, including myself and unfortunately Karen. Now Karen and I have had many run-ins over the years, and suffice it to say, we don't get along. I don't tolerate her nonsense. A week or so after being back, Karen sends a condescending email to the office manager, copying all staff. She says that, while she accepts that the office kitchen had not been stocked while everyone was on lockdown, she is appalled that there is no bread, bagels, yogurts, etc. for staff that have returned. The office manager replies, copying all staff. Karen: as a courtesy to staff, we provide free coffee, tea, milk, and sugar, all of which have been stocked. We have never provided free bread, bagels, yogurts, or other food. However, staff do keep personal food items in the refrigerator. Story 5. My brother is getting married in July. I have a service dog for my various disabilities, and since the day I found out about the wedding, she has been unwilling to accommodate my need for my service dog. She has made various excuses. What if the dog gets hair on my dress? We don't want dogs eating food off the table. What if he jumps up and messes up my dress? It's expensive, and I don't have the money to replace it. I've made it clear that I can't be at the wedding without my service dog. Both my mother and I have also made it clear that he would never do any of the things she's mentioned. Now it's the venue. Well, we don't know if the venue will accommodate you. I mentioned that they had to legally, and my brother was like, still. It seems like they are trying to find any reason to deny me. We are reevaluating the topic in July, and if it doesn't go well, I might just show up with my service dog anyway. Could really use some support from you guys. Story 6. I just needed a place to complain because I'm upset, so it's okay if nobody sees this or replies. Sorry if you do read this and things make no sense. No promises to be coherent. Anyway, hold on to your hats and get ready for a train wreck, folks. My sister mid-30s is probably the worst case of entitlement I've ever seen. She's always the victim, can do no wrong, and the world owes her for her imaginary suffering. This time, however, she's reached a new level. She's recently confessed to our mother and me that she started dating someone behind her husband's back. And to be honest, her husband is also a ginormous jerk. But just leave the guy, okay? I don't think anyone deserves to be cheated on, and even though he's awful, an affair doesn't constitute some kind of just punishment. It's messy, gross, and not worth it. Save everyone the extra heartache. Now, our grandmother passed away at the end of August. It hasn't even been a month since she passed, and since she was terminally ill, we did have time to discuss some things and make arrangements for others. She lived in an apartment that's attached to our mother's house, and we had talked about me moving into it after grandmother passed. Everyone thought it was a good idea because my grandmother had things like no-slip railings, kitchen tools, gadgets for arthritic hands, etc. And I am also disabled and could benefit from the same equipment. Come to find out, my inconsiderate sister thinks it'd be a cool idea to have her affair partner move into our mother's property instead, so she can use our mother as some kind of cover for her affair, and I am absolutely repulsed and livid. We were all just starting to let my sister come around again because, after grandmother passed, she seemed like it had really affected her, and she was really turning over a new leaf. But it's all because she wants her boyfriend to move in. I don't think anyone is going to agree with the idea. I just can't believe that she even thought it would be a viable option and something that she could suggest to us. Why does she just assume that we'll help her cheat on her husband? I want no part of it. I will not be an accomplice. Also, her justification for suggesting he move in is because I don't seem to be in much of a rush to get up there. I found our grandmother, deceased, less than a month ago. Sorry I haven't been in a hurry to erase grandmother from her home. Sorry I haven't been sorting through all of her belongings and getting them ready to be rehomed or donated. I wish I could keep every trace of her, and the fact that I have to get rid of anything at all hurts, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I haven't done it yet. But maybe try having a little empathy. I've decided that I'm removing my sister from my life again. Each time I think she's capable of changing, she shows that she's still the same horrible, selfish person, and I'm done falling for the charade. Have fun with the inevitable divorce proceedings. Good luck explaining all this nonsense to your kids too. Thanks for reading. If you read, I still can't believe my sister is not only a real human being who exists, but we share the same gene pool. Also, I'm 24 years old, so I've had a long time to come to terms with that fact. Still can't.